depends on the kid and listening to what it is that the kid is wanting. For me, in grade 7, I was attending a public school, and I was doing okay there. I'd gotten good grades, I had friends, my teacher liked me, but I just started feeling kind of restless there, and I knew that I was spending all day at a school being shuttled from one class to the next, and then getting up early and being tired. And while it wasn't a horrible thing, I wasn't getting bullied or anything like that, I just knew that if I decided to pull out and start homeschooling, I would have a lot more options, and I would have the freedom to do different things. I would be able to travel with my dad some. I would be able to take the figure skating lessons I'd always wanted. I'd be able to go to youth group activities without having to stay home and stay up really late at night trying to finish my homework. That really was a lot of busy work at the time. And so I didn't know how my parents would think about me making such a drastic change, and so I actually made a list of pros and cons that I would take to them, kind of to soften them up a little bit and show them that I actually had thought about it. I wasn't just, tired of getting up early and wanted to quit school like every other kid. So it ended up being a really long list of all the pros of what would be a benefit of homeschooling, and then I could only really think of one negative, and that was that I had a really good friend at school that I was going to miss. And so I brought it home, I showed it to them, and at first my dad wasn't very familiar with homeschooling because he grew up in a family where you go to public school and it doesn't matter if you like it or not, that's just kind of the way it is. And so at first I think you're a little bit skeptical at first, but by the next week I'd actually pulled out of school and I loved it right from the very beginning. There was a noticeable change in me, I think, from that point on, and I ended up homeschooling right through to high school graduation, and I think looking back it was probably one of the best decisions that I ever made.
That's a classic case for us because she wasn't struggling at school. She was actually doing fine, getting good grades. She was a teacher's pet. So as a parent, you look at that and say, why rock the boat? Like, things were fine. Like, if she was flunking or she was being bullied every day, well, we need to intervene, but it's fine. Let's not worry about that. But what we discovered ultimately was that fine wasn't good enough for her. She wanted the best. She wanted to thrive. She wasn't going to thrive there. For instance, in phys ed class, they had 8 weeks of flag football. And here's my princess wanting to do horseback riding and figure skating. She's flag football. And she's spending a whole lot of her time doing stuff she has no interest in, no joy in. But that's what you do. That's because you're all in a herd and you keep being, moved one place to the next. And so for us, it was hard because we never thought about homeschooling her. We saw no need to. So we had to completely change our perspective. And so what does the parents do? And it's going to require more work on our part, especially my wife's part, and a change in plans. And you start to think of all the problems and all the logistics, and well, never done that, can't afford to do that. And at a certain point, and then we had a lot of well-meaning friends come to us and share conventional wisdom with us. And they would say, well, your kid will be a social misfit if you pull them out of school, and they'll
never go to college.
They won't be able to get into college because they won't have good enough grades and education. And of course, all the advice we were given was by people who'd never done it. They'd never homeschooled, they were unfamiliar with it. It's just the conventional wisdom that they had heard other people say. And as we look back later, we thought if we had based our parenting on the wisdom shared with us from all the people around us, we would have missed out on an amazing journey that Carrie got to go on. And so that's really our counsel to others. It's not that we think everybody should homeschool. It's that when you begin to sense in your heart that what's happening with your kid is not the best, do you have the courage to do whatever it takes, even when other people come along and say, it won't work, it's too expensive, it's too much trouble. As parents, you have to ask yourself, I'm responsible to help these children thrive, and maybe it means doing something no one else is doing. And no one in my family had ever homeschooled before. We'd never considered that before, but it just became apparent that's what God wanted us to do for her, and so we did. And she ultimately went into university, was a 4.0 student, all kinds of awards. She's working on 2 master's degrees today. Obviously, they didn't hurt her academically or socially, that we went with what God was telling us to do. And so the message of the book is, what is it God is impressing on your heart that you need to do for one of your kids? Are you willing to trust Him with that and go for it, even if you never thought of doing that before. And what do you want to do to help each of your kids thrive?